What's going on, YouTube? Chris here. I want to bring you all an update today of Bitcoin. Right now, we're sitting at $10,266. We're going to be looking at Bitcoin on the one-day time frame. What I did, I mapped out 3 or 4 bullish things that are taking place for Bitcoin, and then 3 or 4 bearish things that are also taking place for Bitcoin. And what we're going to do is basically just lay out our chart here. We're going to look at the support areas, resistance areas, and just really map this out. So I'd suggest on your own chart that you really lay out these resistance, support areas, trend lines, that type of stuff, so you can watch this on your own. And you can look for these things as they continue to take place here. So first of all, I want to start in on the bullish case for Bitcoin and what I'm seeing. And also, if you guys get some from this video, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I appreciate y'all being here with me today, and we'll dig into this. So first of all, what we were talking about yesterday, this was yesterday's candle close. We ended up closing roughly at about 10,471, and what we were looking for was deep penetration into the previous day's candle. That's what you want, more buying pressure into that previous day's candle. We actually did have some decent volume. It was above average volume, and what the pattern basically turned into was a Harami pattern. And for Harami patterns, it's a little bit weaker of a pattern. What we want to do is wait for today's confirmation and see if we can get a strong move to the upside here, because what we're trying to find is that bottom so that we can start making our way back up to challenge this white trend line. That's what I'm going to be looking at. But there's some interesting that's taking place. So we have our Harami pattern, which it's not the most bullish pattern. It's not like a bullish engulfing candle or a bullish piercing pattern. So that's why they always say wait for that confirmation. But that is a bullish candlestick pattern, on a little bit on the weaker side that I'm looking at. So that's number one. Number two would basically be these tweezer bottoms. And this would almost be like a tri-tweezer bottom here. You can see these longer wicks here, and they're roughly about 3 to 4%. And typically when you get those longer wicks, whether it be to the upside 3 or 4% or to the downside 3 or 4%, that can be an area where you find support or resistance. And what I wanted to do quick, I wanted to use Link as an example. So if we go to Link here and take a look at this, which is at 1157, we were talking about these tri-tops before. People who've been here with me, we were looking at these and saying this was potentially an area to take some profit. But these wicks are very similar to the bottom wicks that we're dealing with right now for Bitcoin. You can see after we had these, we had that big sell-off. So now when we're looking at Bitcoin, and we're paying attention to Bitcoin, we're trying to find that support, these longer tri-wicks right down here off this 100 moving average, and see if we can go and back test this trend line, because that's what happens a lot in chart patterns. I was reading about it a little bit last night. Whenever you have a trend line break, you're always, for the most part, going to have a back test of the trend line that you broke out of. So our options are we can back test it and fail, and it can act as overhead resistance, and then we go down and make a lower low. Or we can break back up into it and actually start traveling back within this trend line, or even right below that trend line, as we continue to try to make a move to the upside, because we did have some buying pressure. I mean, that's some decent volume that came in. Our stock, or our relative strength index right now is at 36. So for us being in an uptrend and our RSI down here at 36, that's pretty important, because typically when we are in these uptrends and we retrace, the RSI will get down roughly to about 40, right in that range, 35, 40, and we're sitting at 36 now. So is this an area where we can potentially find some support off this 100 moving average with these little tweezer bottoms here? We're going to have to keep an eye on that. And also we pointed out the volume. So those are kind of the bullish things, and also trying to find support on the top of that $10,200 as well. The top of that symmetrical triangle is important for us as well. But those are kind of the bullish things that I'm seeing for Bitcoin right now. And next, what I wanted to do was get into the bearish things. We've had a trend line break. It came on heavy volume, so that's obviously a bearish thing, because we have broken down through this white trend line that I've been watching for quite a while now. The next one, the RSI is still making lower highs here. So what we need to do is go back up and test this trend line and try to break up through that. So we're going to keep an eye on that. The dump that we had was 18% to the downside, so that is powerful. It was on a lot of volume. And now we have the 60 and the 30 moving average acting as overhead resistance for us. We're no longer holding them as support. And we also had basically almost that head and shoulders top pattern that was even more pronounced on the 4-hour time frame is what we were looking at there. But you know, guys, while we're in this area, 10,200 for me, I wouldn't even be upset if we went down to 9,600, filled that CME's future gap, and then tried to get this trend moving to the upside again. Because with us down around this area and us being so close, basically, I'd rather almost fill that. Remember, gaps, a lot of time, most of the time, they fill, but they don't have to fill. but it seems like in Bitcoin, a lot of the times they do. So for me, I'd almost rather have us have a quick crash down through there, fill that now so we can get moving again. But the downside of that would be the price action would be below $10,000. And I've talked to you before, we don't want to get trapped below that $10,000 again. We fought for so long to get over top of $10,000, guys. That's such a big deal. And we need to continue to hold that as support. So it's kind of like that mixed bag that we're looking at here. So unless it's like a quick flash crash, then it's a little bit different. But, you know, this is what we have to pay attention to. These are the areas that you really need to watch. So overhead resistance now is going to be at 10,419. Then it's going to be at 10,871. Then up around that 11,382. In terms of support, we're going to look to hold roughly the apex of this symmetrical triangle, which would be down around $9,000. We wouldn't want to get much below that. And then we'd be testing that 200 moving average. But this is a sticky area, guys, and we have to see what type of bounce we can get out of here today and tomorrow, and if this can be our bottom right here. Keep an eye on these areas. God bless each and every one of you. Take care, my friends.